Welcome to another Quantum Conversation, brought to you by acoustichealth.com. I'm Loren Gailey, and I invite you to sit back as we enter the quantum realm, that space of the greater part of you. It is your connection to infinite possibilities, infinite potential, and infinite mastery. Welcome, everyone. Thank you so much for being here. I'm Loren Gailey, and we are excited to work and play with the inner child. The inner child is such an important part of our healing journey. And my guest today says it really is a portal into self-love. Boy, we can sure use a lot more self-love, and it is time to have some fun and to return the childlike energies within us. Margo Fraser is here, and she works along these lines, assisting people raise their vibration. Hi, Margo. Welcome to the show.
Hi, Loren. Hi, everyone. So honored to be here to play with you all and really connect us in a deeper way with our inner child.
Yes, the inner child, we're going to learn more about the wounds of an inner child. So many of us have these wounds. We may not even be aware of it until we become aware of like a repeating pattern in our life where we're like, what in the world is this? So tell us about the inner child and maybe the work that you do and the various archetypes that are involved. First, tell us how you got started in this.
Yeah, for sure. Well, I mean, wow, what a time we've been going through, right? These last few years in the world. And wow, unprecedented, I think, these times with confusion and fear and anger and frustration. Like it's just out there, and it's really triggering those primal fears that we have. We've been getting like that 1-2 punch, right? With a threat to health and then a threat to finances as a result. So when I was tuning into the energies around this, I was really feeling that pain and the sorrow of that sacred inner child, those qualities of play and innocence really being like squashed down by these lower level energies and the pessimism, on one hand. And I could see the triggering of the not self aspects, or sometimes we call them personas, the lower self, the shadow self, whatever terminology you want to use. But those parts of us that did fracture off from the whole of us in childhood to protect or to survive or to control the situation in some way that we didn't know how to handle at that time. And it fractured us off from what's really authentic to us, our truth. And there's all this frustration energy out there. And you can hear the inner child, like, right? The lower inner child, like, why can't I? Like, what's going on? And there's also the pain of the inner child innocence really being eroded away with people turning against one another. Right? There's so much, been so much division out there, and that really impacts our ability to vision a better world. And there's this loneliness that's really been out there too over the last few years of people being isolated. That abandoned child archetype has really been amplified as an example. And at the same time, I could really feel a lot of people prompted to go deeper into their spiritual journey, to really want to more deeply access their inner child magic and their intuitive powers. And your sacred inner child can really be a key, like to unlock that door to that portal. But we need to heal and restore the spirit of that inner child first, right? It really amplify its authentic light. So yeah, that's kind of how I moved into it. And I can kind of talk about the different ways that we can bring these shadow aspects into awareness, if you like. But that's kind of what's really driven this program and this work.
Yes, we hear from folks out there that, it's been challenging. And yet, at one point, if we surrender to the joy, to the laughter, and maybe just make that little shift that really is surrendering to the inner child. So yeah, we're going to learn. We're going to actually take some questions from our audience as well, our Zoom audience. But let's let's dive right into the archetypes of the shadow side and how we would identify the shadow side of our inner child.
Yeah, so there's a couple of different lenses that we can put on to identify those wounds, identify those shadows. One is looking at those broad categories of trauma and conditioning, right? There's things that we just know, if you've been through an overt trauma, those points of pain are going to be more obvious and conscious, although keeping in mind that sometimes we have deep traumas that we've suppressed, abuses, or there may have been a parent that dies or walks out on the family. There could have been some kind of accident that incapacitated, someone in some way in the family, and the role completely changed. Those big humiliations too, right? Like kids being forced to go into the front of the class to speak, and maybe they stuttered or they wet their pants or they were bullied at school. I have a good friend that grew up in a family where her father was an alcoholic and the mother was verbally abusive. And it was a lot of deep work and healing to release and transform that. And then on top of that, we've got all the conditioning from family, from society, from cultures, right? And often we just accept it or we dismiss it. Sometimes it's more obvious than others. And sometimes they can even be seen as positive things. But if they're not aligned with our truth, with our authentic self, right, then it's still taking us off track. And there's so much that our inner child takes in, especially in those first 7 years of life, about how relationships work, what works and what doesn't for getting attention and getting things, and how far can you push boundaries, and what types of things result in rejection in your family, at school, in the community. If you fell down, someone might have, really nurtured you in a healthy way, and someone else might have just been, oh, you're all right, get up, suck it up, buttercup kind of thing. So you may have learned, for example, that the masculine, it's the masculine that punishes, like, just wait till your father comes home, right? So we're really learning in our childhood about levels of dependency and levels of responsibility. And then we have all these kind of hidden not self conditioning that comes through our auric interactions with others. I study human design as well, and the neutrino stream coming down, it's conditioning us. And people that come into our aura, right? And we certainly are more aware of that now, right? That we pick up other people's emotional energies, that our energy can get entangled with others. And sometimes it's difficult, especially as children, to separate out what's mine and what's theirs, right? And we take it on as us. There's something wrong with us, especially as a child. And that can really, lead to wounds as well. Even the food that we eat can biocondition us, right? So if we're having, there's a frequencies and conditions under which we take in food, under which we take in information that's healthy for us and not healthy for us. And I think everybody's had that, when the mind craves something that the body's going, and the mind could just overrule it. So that's kind of one side of things, just delving into all those different conditioning aspects. And then the other side, the other lens we can put on is looking at the child archetypes and examining things from that side, the shadow and the light side. So should I go into that now, or anything you want to say about what I just said first?
No, it's really wonderful. I mean, I'm looking back. I know we're all listening to you and looking back at our life and some of those experiences. And oh my goodness, there are so many. And I remember I had a girlfriend as we were getting to be age of getting married and thinking about families. She was really scared of having children, saying, oh my God, you could mess up your child with saying one bad thing. So she was really sensitive to it, but there's many layers. As you were talking, I remember for me, there was abuse in the family. And so I can see myself having a little bit of, trying to make people happy because of that, like not wanting to make waves not making waves. But then really it also goes into abundance and poverty consciousness, or lack consciousness, I should say, as that was programmed into us or conditioned into us. There's so many facets to it. So as you start to unravel it, I guess looking at these archetypes help, because you do it one at a time. You do it one layer at a time. Is that right? Or does it
you can start, you can start really seeing, ooh, like, how does that one play out for me? And even looking at, things that we might think are not detrimental, but again, not authentic. So for example, my parents did a lot of volunteer work in the community. And so that sense of like volunteering and being of service was instilled in us. But like, I found I was doing it to the excess, right? Like I was burning myself out through contribution. Like it was like a duty, right? And that was really instilled, but it was causing me to break down, like my body, I was torn in so many different directions. So even that seemed like something positive was still a conditioning influence that was misaligned, or having me misaligned with myself. So it's very deep, and there's many different layers. And the child archetypes, I mean, it was Carl Jung who really brought archetypes to the forefront. And for those who aren't sure, archetypes are just patterns that symbolically embody universal meanings and basic human experiences, independent of time and place. So the mother archetype, the father archetype, you see them all over the world, no matter where you go. And the child archetype was one that he identified as well. But then I'm sure many of you are familiar with Carolyn Mace, who's a medical intuitive and spiritual teacher. She took that another step and identified 6 archetypes of the inner child. So the wounded child, the orphaned or the abandoned child, the magical child, the divine child, the nature child, and the eternal child. And we each have all of them, right? We have all of them, but there's usually one that's most predominant. So for me, the nature child is the most predominant one of all of those. And each of those archetypes has its shadow side and its light side. So maybe I'll just give you a quick overview of each of those. I go really deep on these when I'm working with people, but just to give you an idea, the wounded child. So the wounded child, I think that one's pretty obvious. On the shadow side is going to carry those memories of the abuse, of the neglect, get stuck in those energies. So the patterns keep repeating. The wounding keeps repeating in their life. So I mentioned my friend whose mom was verbally abusive. Well, her brother he didn't do the work. He wants nothing to do with their mom. And on one hand, there's nothing necessarily wrong with that. But at the same time, he is so full of anger about their childhood that he can be explosive and nasty in the same way as his mother. But he doesn't see it at all, that he has the same sort of triggering within him. The wounded child on the light side, when you work on healing those wounds and it's brought into the light, this is a part of us that can really understand what it's like to be wounded. It can have such compassion and be of service to help others that have gone through similar wounding. The orphaned or the abandoned child, again, that one's pretty obvious, I think. It's the one that feels rejected or disconnected, lonely. It could be the black sheep of the family, that sense of being an outsider. And there's different things that could have happened. I mean, there could have been truly the loss of a parent in one way or another. There could have been a death. They could have walked out. Again, they could have been incapacitated in some way where they can't fulfill that role as a parent anymore. And so it's still a type of abandonment that the inner child feels. So there can be real issues with trust on one hand, if you've gone through that type of wounding, and also being needy and codependent, if that inner child finds someone that will look after them in that way, right? That can be one of the patterns that plays out as well, looking for a partner who is the replacement for that father, that mother in their life. On the light side, though, that healed, abandoned child can really have this determination, to conquer the basic survival fears. They can be very confident in their abilities and independent in a healthy way. So that's a beautiful aspect that child brings through. The third one's the magical child, and the magical child is so precious. It is the one that can enchant and be enchanted. It has this aspect of innocence and the ability to see that everything can be sacred. On the shadow side, though, it's when the magic is lost, right? The inner child then is pessimistic, bitter about its dreams being crushed, or it can live in a fantasy world, right? It can also play out believing that it doesn't have to put any energy into action. Everything's just magically going to happen, right? In an unrealistic way, and isn't aware that others are taking on a burden of responsibility because they're not doing their part. The divine child. So the divine child's very close as an archetype to the magical child, but it has this aspect of redemption, of being a savior. So the divine child's the one who really brings that deep divine connection, that faith. Really beautiful. In the not self, though, it's like vengeance for injustices or the inability to be able to defend and protect against dark forces. It becomes the one that has to be saved in that case. The nature child has a very intimate bond with nature, a love of animals. There's a real tenderness there with the natural world. There's a resilience and inner toughness like nature has. The shadow side, though, is being abusive to animals, to people, to the environment, not caring at all for them. And it can also be like where, we love animals, but we hate people, right? I've heard that as well and seen that play out. And then the eternal child is the last one. This is the one that's playful, that allows us to stay young in body, mind, and spirit. This is the one that's not going to let age prevent it from enjoying life. But on the shadow side, it's the one that doesn't want to grow up at all and take responsibility. There can be a real immaturity there. It'll play out as someone who can't be relied upon, can't accept the aging process, is extremely dependent on others to look after them. It's what we would refer to like as the man child or the woman child. That would be the shadow of that eternal child archetype. So that's a really quick overview, and you can see that they all have beautiful and sacred light side qualities. Like, just imagine, right? If all of those inner child archetypes were fostered within us and their light really allowed to shine, like what would the world be like, right? If each of us was just lit up in our unique way, all the self-love and self-nurturing and inner trust and joy that could open us up to, and that we could just radiate out from our being. So that's, I think, why this work is so important.
Well, you obviously are what do I want to say? Embracing, activating all of those inner childs, because you are so happy and joyous. And when you were sharing on those archetypes, I think some of us were looking at ourselves and saying, yeah, I seem to be more like this way or that way, or wow, because I'm seeing a pattern. Wow, maybe I just need to flip side or do the opposite of that, of the shadow side. So then that brings the question, do we have all of those archetypes within us?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we have them all, but one will be more predominant. So usually you'll really identify with one, but they all need to be worked on because they all are part of our inner child. They're all there, and you want to foster them. I mean, who doesn't want to have all those, right? All those sacred sides of those inner child archetypes and be able to pull from their capabilities and the magic that they bring. Yeah.
Yeah. You would think that the abandoned child, for example, that would just be a wounded child and there's nothing good that can come out of that. But you said that the gifts of that is the confidence that one would have and the determination.
Mm-hmm.
And then we look at some figures in our world who were dealt with rough cards in life, but they've been able to go forward through it and they've maximized the magic in it. So very cool. Very, very good. You're going to do some readings for people. And so one of the best ways for people to ask a question, it's on the show page here that we will put in our chat line. But the question to ask Margo is, what aspect is the most eclipsing the light of my inner child? She's going to do some readings for us. Before we get there, though, I wanted you to share a little bit more on some of these other aspects of the planetary energy and nature and how that affects us and what we can do to work with that.
Yeah. So, in doing this work, and we have to do this excavation, basically, right? We have to excavate out these triggers and these shadow aspects of our inner child to help them heal and not to punish them, right? It's to bring them forward and acknowledge them and yeah, I see you there. I see you there, wounded inner child, and it's okay. It's okay. You're not going to be punished. I know you're doing the best you can. It's just from what you learned in life. And, it's time for us to work together now and allow some magic to happen. And, it might be a little uncomfortable, but I'm going to be there with you every step of the way. So you have to be a mother or father to your inner child, right? And really allow it to bring that healing forward. And then allow that light to come in and release what doesn't, serve us, the emotional goop that's holding those old patterns, those outdated patterns in place, and allow those energies then to be replaced with the magic, with the joy, with the love, whatever is needed, and amplify them. And when you do that, man, there is this transcendence that's possible as we merge with that sacred inner child, a way of seeing possibilities within limitation. And we can activate that sacred inner child to allow ourselves to really embody it, to transport us to the realm of the imaginal. Right? Not necessarily the imaginary, right? Imagination is important, but something that your sacred inner child really brings through and is a master of is working in the imaginal. And this is the intersection of our reality with those other dimensions and planes. It's a place where we meet with the nature spirits, with the devas, with the fairies, with the masters, the angels, the light beings, and a place where we have greater access to our intuitive power and can really strengthen our divine connection. And so, yeah, the planetary energy that really supports us, and we might not even have thought about, is Mercury, right? Father Sun, Mother Earth, or Grandmother Moon, Mother Moon, but Mercury's the child. It's not just about communication. And isn't it interesting, though, that the planet that represents the child does also represent communication? Because how many people developed a fear of speaking in childhood, right? So as we work on healing our inner child, we can also empower our voice. So this celestial planetary energy of Mercury is one that we can call in to support the healing process. And I personally work with the nature beings and the crystal beings, the plant kingdom beings. And so there are certain plants, certain crystals that in particular really soak up the energies of Mercury, and we can access them through the plant kingdom beings or their essential oils that are distilled from them, from the crystals that really have a strong association with Mercury. And so one of the strongest for Mercury are the green crystals, particularly emerald. That's its primary crystal energy. But more translucent green crystals can also be used. And of course, now we can flow into green is also one of the primary frequencies associated with the heart and with love. So as we work with that green crystal essence of Mercury, we're also supporting the energy of the heart, the love, the compassion, the acceptance of our inner child in the home of our heart. And we just need to ask the crystal being and set our intentions around this. Sometimes we forget that, right? We have these nice crystals or these plants around our homes, but we forget that we have to actually call upon them. We have to let them know what our intentions are for them to really, truly support us. So yeah, that would be one of the beans. Do you want me to tell you another one?
Yes.
So one of the plant kingdom beans, I love this one, is foxglove. And it's also known as fairy thimble. It's an Old English folk name. It was used to be called foxglove, and the folk referred to the fairy folk. And they look like little pink thimbles hanging down. So this is an energetic essence that also helps us access the imaginal realm. I mean, it's actually a poisonous plant if you were to eat it, but its scientific name is digitalis. Sound familiar? So that's the medicine that's made from it. And digitalis is actually used to treat the heart when there's a heart rhythm problem, right? There's a misalignment, and it strengthens and regulates the heartbeat. So energetically then, this is an essence that can help heal and strengthen the heart of our inner child to align to our authentic rhythm in life, which in turn means that we're aligning to our divine rhythm, and also supports our access to the nature realm, to the fairy realm. So I love working with foxglove as well. So that's just another one to kick in there for support.
Awesome. Thank you. I know that those who are interested have taken notes on that and are going to go work with those green crystals and some of those essences. Awesome. Very good. All right. Let's go to some questions. You're going to do some readings for folks. This is where it gets really fun. If you are in our Zoom audience, you can raise your hand and we will unmute you or allow you to talk. We will allow you to talk. Otherwise, there are some coming in right here. And let's go first to this from Brigitte. What aspect is most eclipsing the light of my inner child?
Yeah, so let's just feel in for you now and see what's happening for you. So it's Bridget or
Bridget.
Bridget. Okay, perfect. Thank you. Okay, so fear is coming up, and there's an aspect that is actually really afraid of being in your light, and it's afraid, this aspect of your inner child, that being fully in its light is actually going to bring a burden. Like I literally saw the light on its back, like it was having to, carry around this big burden of its light. So let me just see where this was in this life, when this was triggered for you. So age 5 is when this one got triggered in this life. Those that do the program with me, I also feel in and see if it was originally coming from rooted in a past life or ancestral lineage. But age 5 here triggered where it feels like you were offering your light and then more got dumped on you. It's like you were really good at something and it's like, oh, let's give you more to do then. So that little 5-year-old, you made this association with it actually being in your light, being a burden. And so it's kind of, I don't know if I want to be fully in my light. Yeah.
Okay. All right. I'm going to invite those who are, well, we've got some with their hands raised. That's great. If you raise your hand, we're going to unmute you and you can talk. It's always really fascinating to see how spot on some of these mini readings can be. So Bridget, please send us a little chat note. And then I see some people who are asking questions in the chat. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to come to you and I'm going to unmute you, or I'm going to allow you to unmute yourself. Let's go to Karen. Karen is using an older version of Zoom, so I'm going to promote her to panelist, and then she can come in and unmute and even share video if you want. Hi, Karen. Hi. And unmute, please.
Hi, I thought I just got booted off, but hi, here I am. Kind of exciting. What a wonderful, wonderful share you've been and topic. I feel like I have a few of these. My computer looks a little unstable.
That's okay. Go ahead.
Okay. Well, what aspect do you see that's?
Yeah, so let's see for you. Yeah, Karen, what's most eclipsing your light? What does your higher self want to bring through? And I'll say too, when I was talking about those archetypes, absolutely. You can have, they can all be playing a part, right? In terms of the shadow side. More than one of them can absolutely be active. We all have them all. Remember that, even though one tends to be more predominant. So yeah, Karen, so let me just see what your higher self wants you to know right now in terms of, what's most eclipsing the light of your inner child. So just tuning in with you. Okay, this is an aspect of your inner child that feels like if it's in its light, things are just going to spin out of control. So I kind of saw it stepping into its light, but then it was like one of those wild rides at the fair where it just started spinning around and like it was getting dizzy and oh my gosh, like what's going on here? So yeah, and then if everything gets out of control, there's fear energy that comes in with that. So that's the underlying fear. Let me just see where this is rooted in this life when this was triggered. So age 3 is when this was triggered, and it feels like it was actually you as a 3-year-old observing and taking in this energy from someone else. So it could have been a parent or something else going in life where, wow, like they were doing something and it was just like crazy. The energy was just, I can feel it's just like a mass confusion energy. Whoa, and your inner child's like, I don't know if I want to be in my light. That's going to happen. So that's what needs to be cleared for you.
Oh, okay. That makes sense and resonates a lot with me. Yes, very much so. Thank you.
Thanks, Karen. Thanks for calling in.
Yes, thank you, Karen. All right. So talk a little bit about the clearing, the process for the clearing. Does that require a lot of work? What's it like? I mean, it's different for everyone because there's so many layers.
Yeah, exactly. It is different for everyone. So when I'm working with people, well, and in the special offer that I'm offering here, we're going deep. I really want people to understand the archetypes in a bigger way. I mean, I gave you just a little overview today, but we go into them quite deeply through a series of master classes. And I'm doing infusions through that as well, starting to get your being prepared through the energies, like working with the green emerald energies and essences, because I actually channel these energies and essences into your being. And it's starting to remove that density and letting the sacred inner child really step forward, the sacred aspects of each of those inner child archetypes. So yeah, it's really doing a lot of digging, a lot of clearing, a lot of understanding to begin. And then as your mind, right, that gets your mind on board when it understands what the shadow is like and what the light is like. And then it's like, oh yeah, I want to be the light. So now we got the mind on board. So now we can start doing the deeper work. So I typically take, if I have a group of people, through a group clearing process as well. There are so many different wounds and aspects. I mean, we're just dipping our toes in here today, and you'll hear them coming up as we do the readings. But we want to go deep in those. So I go through each of the archetypes, the common wounds that exist with each of them, doing a nice group clearing. And then for those that work with me individually in the private session, then we can go even deeper, right? Your being has been attuned to the energies as I do the infusions through the master classes and through the workshop. And now there are specific frequencies that are coming in to support the releasing. And I'm doing the reading as well, you know, going back, is it somewhere, is the root of this pattern with your inner child actually established back in your ancestral lineage or back in a past life? And so we're going to go back there and unroot that, letting that really be released. And the other thing that's really magical in this particular program, I hadn't expected it to happen, but as each archetype receives some healing, and move more into its light qualities, they also started bringing through gifts like, oh my gosh, your inner child wants you working with butterfly energy. Your inner, you know, this aspect wants you working with color. And, you know, you can actually radiate that out of your hands. Your inner child can do that or whatever it might be. So yeah, so that's the way that I work with individuals. I like to go deep. I like to give you the information so that the mind's on board in the whole process, and then your being can just relax and be on board and letting go of the old shadow energies and just bringing in the light essences from the crystal and the plant kingdom beings that want to come in for you. Yeah.
Wonderful support. And you know, it's that mind being on board, the ego minds, the, you know, the mental, the awareness aspect of the wounded child or the abandoned child or that archetype. Would you say that that is a majority of the work? Like just the awareness, coming into the awareness of the pattern, what would you say, like 70, 80% of the work?
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely the first piece, right? Bringing that in, that awareness, but we also need to take that step beyond, right? We need to move from awareness into the actual action of releasing that emotional glue and letting those old patterns collapse, those old belief systems, you know, like for me, oh, I got to take on all these volunteer things, right? That's what I thought I was supposed to be doing. And yes, I want to be of service and I am of service. But as I said, I was going way overboard. So I almost see when we drop those beliefs out to me, I see them like a house of cards. Whew, we collapse those out, and then the frequencies that get brought in support establishing new habits, patterns, and beliefs that are in alignment with the light side qualities of those aspects. So yeah, I mean, awareness, big piece of that, you know, probably 50 to 60%, but still, you know, the real magic happens when we even take that step beyond and go, okay, I brought into awareness, now let's let that old pattern, those old energies, those old emotions go, and really allow myself to embody those high frequency energies.
Yes, we're ready to embody the high frequency energies. I want to just say that Bridget typed in the chat and says, yes, 5 was the age my sister was born. So I feel it may have to do with this and having to look after my sister. I went from being a nature child and totally into nature to being a caregiver.
And that's definitely one of the things we talk about in the program, is often we've had to abandon our own inner child, right? And step into an adult role. And we, yeah, totally miss out on the nature child, all the playful aspects, right? And yeah, we want to get back in touch with what had dropped away in those circumstances.
Beautiful, thank you. So Angel, you can unmute yourself and ask your question. We'll give you another moment. There you go. Hello.
Hello.
Hi.
Hi. Yeah, I just resonated with what you just said about, you know, you're growing up and you're taking care of everyone else. And suddenly even the 6-year-old becomes mothering to the younger children whatsoever. So
Yeah.
I definitely had some of that. But now and I've been processing all those emotions lately. And maybe I've been doing too much work almost, or something's going on and my head is just like a little buzz has been going on for the past 3 months nonstop. And I'm like, am I in the higher frequencies all the time? Am I registering the higher frequencies? People, I can't tell anymore because it doesn't go on and off. It's like constant.
Yeah, I will say that it just went out recently, but we had a very long period of time where the neutrino stream coming through was activating in everybody, the channel of knowing, of wanting to know the mysteries of life. It actually created a lot of pressure. I was feeling it too. Like it just felt like my crown was on fire all the time. That part of that frequency just left, but I don't know your own design, but that could have something to do with it as well. Yeah, but would you like me to check on your inner child and just see if there's something that it has to say about that?
Right, because there's kind of like speaking up and constantly making noise because I'm not listening. I don't know.
Right, okay. So let me just see what your higher self wants to say about your inner child and anything that's eclipsing its light, and what you've just said, I'm sure your higher self will take into account. So let's just see here. Nice full breath for me.
Yeah, feeling that.
Yeah, let's just tune in here. Yeah, this is another aspect that's feeling the weight of the world, like it's light. It's like it thinks it has to carry the weight of the world, and that's what being in its light is about. And that's not true. Being in your light is just being your authentic self. It's a lot easier than we think when we're in our authenticity. The things that are correct for us will be magnetized to us. So I'm already just sending in some energy for you, Angel, just to start, just to support releasing kind of that buzzing and bringing that energy down into your body, right? Bringing it down into your being. Because even if there is things that are dropping in, it's not going to support us to just keep the mind and the
Whirling,
right? We want to bring them down into our core so we can be active from them, but also really let your inner child know that being in her light does not mean that she has to carry the weight of everything. And it's very much related to what you were talking about, taking on that adult role very early in life. For you, let's just see.
High responsibility, for everybody, I guess.
Yeah, and it's funny you mentioned age 6 before, because that is what's coming in. That this started, this learning that, I got to take everything on.
Well, I got to be the peacemaker.
Mm-hmm.
If I don't, then there's more chaos, more noise, which is like, what's going on now? A lot of chaos, a lot of noise.
Right. And often what happens too is, again, especially as children, we are taking in frequencies from those in our aura, right? Those are coming in. And again, this is more pulling from the human design side, but they get amplified within our being. And so if we don't understand, we don't have the discernment as a child of what's ours and what's not ours, then we end up taking that energy on as ours, thinking that we have to respond to it. We have to do something about it.
Up to us.
Yeah, exactly. When truly it's not, right? And then we get flipped into this adult role instead of maintaining, being the child, being the one who gets to be nurtured. And it flips itself, right?
So serious.
Yeah. So we just want you connected back in and bring that playful you back out, and more joy. It's definitely there. Your inner child's very excited right now, even just bringing this into awareness.
Thank you, Angel.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Feel that happiness now in my heart. That's awesome.
Yeah. That emerald light is just activating your heart now. It's beautiful.
Yes, it is. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Angel. Perfect. Let's go to Allie. Allie, you can unmute yourself and ask that question.
Hello.
Hi, Allie.
Can you hear me? Hi, how are you?
Good.
I guess I have the same question. been doing a lot of shadow work for many years, and I've been on this path for a long time, and I recently lost my son 2 years ago. So thank you. And lately with all the energies and everything, I just, I don't know, like I'm outwardly been very conscious of being kind and respectful, but inside I have more turmoil. So I would like to know what you see. Thank you.
Okay, so let's see what aspect is most eclipsing the light of your inner child, Allie.
Thank you.
Deep breath, and I'll just tune in with your higher self here.
Okay.
Okay, a lot of grief in your inner child, not feeling that what she has to offer is of value. And so I see her not fully stepping into her own light as a result, right? Well, that's that light, that's not for me, you know? And so, yeah, there's a lot of grief there that just needs to be released for her. So let's just see when this one was triggered, what age. So age 8 for you.
8. Okay.
Yeah. So sense into age 8, you know, you might have a realization of something that happened there. You know, and sometimes they're just simple things, right? Like we thought we were really proud of something we did at school, and then like no one pays attention, or kind of like, oh, that wasn't so great, or whatever it may be. But yeah, so she's just feeling some grief and some rejection that needs to be released so she can step into her light.
Okay.
Okay.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Thank you, Allie. Good to see you here.
Thank you.
And we're going to Pina next. Hi, Pineapple. Hi, Pina. You can unmute.
Hi, Lauren. Hi, Margo. Thank you
Hi,
both.
Pina.
This is a wonderful.
Thank you.
So
Yeah.
I've got one aspect that's the model child, people pleaser.
Uh-huh.
But anyway, I'm going to ask, what is eclipsing the light of my inner child today? Thank you.
Yeah. So nice deep breath. Just open yourself for me to connect in with your higher self. So you have an aspect that feels like if it was fully in its light, its whole world would be turned upside down. Like I just see it stepping in, and then everything flips upside down, and there's a lot of fear about what that would then bring, right? It's this fear of the unknown that's underlying that. And so it can have you being overly controlling how things play out and taking control of things and wanting to have control of things in a way that's more than it needs to be, more energy that needs to be placed onto that, trying to keep everything in order is what I'm hearing. So let me just see when this one was triggered for you. What age? Age 4. Age 4. Yep. And it feels like something happened where there was a lot of chaos around you, and these energies were taken in, and it was almost like I see it coming in like as like shocking your system. It's these chaotic energies coming in, and it's like this reverberation in your system. It's like, whoa, like I don't want to feel that again, is what your inner child is saying. Like we need to do everything we can not to have that kind of chaotic energy coming into our system. Chaotic energy coming into our system. Whoop, did I lose you?
No, I'm trying to figure out what happened.
Oh. Yeah, well, again, I mean, sometimes it's not something that's super traumatic. It's just in the energies that other people were carrying that you're being took in.
Okay, perfect.
Okay.
I look forward to taking your course.
Yeah, it feels like a lot of other people were around you. And I'm just seeing, it just feels like you're in the center and there's just a ton of energy. I'm just seeing all this movement and all this chaotic energy around you. And it's just like almost deer in the headlights for your inner child.
Great. Thank you very much.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Thanks, Pina. All right. We will be able to get to a few more readings. This is a great time, though, Margo, to share on your special offer ways that people can work with you. We can feel your essence. We can see the great work that you do, the way that you clear. So share with us what you've got.
Sure. Let me just pull it up so I have it here.
And the link, let me put the link as well in our Zoom audience so our audience can follow along. And of course, the link is right here on this webpage for viewers watching there.
Yeah, perfect. Okay, so there's two different options with this. One includes a private session and one does not. So the private session, yeah, this is, as I mentioned before, where we go really deep in the clearing. You'll already have done the initial work that I'll talk about in a moment. You'll receive your specific infusions that your higher self has called forth to support your sacred inner child and really being in its light, in its joy, in acceptance, and having that deeper soul connection. And you'll also, that's a private session with me, and you'll also have, I always scan at the end of the session to see how many days it's going to take for the integration of the energies that I've brought in for you. You know, energetically it happens right away, but for the physical body to assimilate it, that can take a few days. And then you're also going to have just a quick touch point follow-up with me, and that will be one-on-one again, so that I can just check in, making sure that the integration has fully happened, and just letting you know any other information that your inner child is bringing through for you. What everybody's going through, the option 2. So if you do option 1, the private session, you get all this as well. We're going to have an orientation call. So we're going to gather together. We're going to do a group intention setting process. This is really sacred. I'm going to be attuning you there. I'll be channeling in some of the fundamental frequencies that we'll be working with throughout this program. And we're going to be working very strongly with Mercury, where I'll actually be in the workshop and in the private session going into the temple of Mercury. We're going to be doing some work with the yantra. It's a sacred symbology of Mercury. You'll have one you can even color in if your inner child wants to. You don't have to. I'll give you one that's already fully colored, or you can have the blank one and do it yourself. There's an intake form for this that, again, is going to start bringing things into awareness for you. So I ask you some questions within that intake form that just starts loosening things up as you contemplate and letting me know some of the wounds that your inner child has had, and also, you know, what is your intention, right? Because when we set those intentions, that really activates our being to move towards that light side. Everyone's going to get an intuitive reading. So even if I did a reading here for you, if you're in this program, you're going to get another reading in that case. But everybody's going to get a reading of what's most eclipsing the light of their inner child. And then we're going to do a masterclass series. So this is 3 live calls with me as a group. They range around 60 to 90 minutes long, and we're going to go through each of those workshops. We're going to take 2 of those inner child archetypes, and we're going to really delve into their shadow and their light side. And I'm also going to let you know the specific crystal and plant kingdom energies that are coming in generally to support us as a group in healing the wounds that are related to that specific archetype. And I will do, again, a preliminary infusion for you in each of those master classes, just to start preparing your being for the workshop that's coming. And you'll get a PDF worksheet, I like to call them play sheets, with each of those as well, that gives you the information. Sometimes people are there like trying madly to write everything down, but I'm going to give you the information and also some contemplation exercises practices that you can do within that, again, to support you in connecting more deeply with your inner child, with what needs to be cleared and with what wants to be brought in for it. Then we're going to move into a healing workshop. It says 2 hours on here. It ended up, when I've done it before, being closer to 2.5 hours, because we are going deep. We're clearing out all sorts of aspects related to every single one of those 6 archetypes. So it's deep. And then as we complete that, we'll then do an infusion of high vibration energies. As I mentioned, we will be journeying into the temple of Mercury. I'll be explaining the symbolism of the yantra, so you understand how powerful that is as we work through this. And then harmonizing and balancing those energies for your sacred inner child, really supporting you into coming into those greater levels of playfulness and joy and self-love. And then you'll also receive a post-workshop integration meditation to support you. So for those doing the private session, you'll do all of that first, because I want to do all of that deep clearing work, so that when I get together with you individually, we can take the next step and go even deeper and do the clearing work. And in the private session, this is also where your inner child brings through its gifts, whatever those are going to be. As I say, sometimes it's working with a color or crystals, or I never know what to expect. I just leave it open for your inner child through your higher self to let me know. And yeah, it's really fun. It's beautiful. For those of you that actually may be doing healing work, you may find that there's a new expression that wants to come through as well from your inner child. And yeah, I think I got everything there. Yes.
Beautiful. What a wonderful package, a very supportive package for those who are ready to do this deep, deep work and really return to that childlike joy and innocence and the expression, authentic self, and our gifts in the world. And I just honor you and thank you for that, because all of us, when we assist not only ourself in making this higher self connection to the inner child and to that greater aspect of ourself, and we help others do it as well, that is New Earth. And the way that we create New Earth is with the frequency of joy and love and the wisdom of our higher self and the wisdom of the inner child. So it's wonderful work that you're doing. We're excited for this. We want folks to go and sign up for this and get registered. Lots of good elements in this offering, no matter which option is selected. It's perfect. And I just want to say that there's a 2 payment plan available as well. So we hope that that makes it very easy and efficient for folks to come on board and do that work. All right, you had mentioned something that I'd like you to speak a little bit more about, the neutrino stream. This goes quantum. Can you share what is the neutrino stream? There are some who feel like constant downloads. Is that what it is? And
Yes.
how do we feel it? How do we become aware that something's going on?
Yeah, so the neutrino stream, I mean, we have neutrinos going through us at billions, trillions per inch every second of every day. They're emitted by the sun. They are quantum, they change form. There's still lots that, science doesn't even know about neutrinos. For a long time, it's dark matter. First it was just empty space, and then we kind of learned, oh, there's dark matter, and then it's like, oh, there's neutrinos, and then, oh, but they don't have mass, they don't do anything. And now we know, yeah, they do have mass. It's something that in human design, looking at your energetic wiring, the man who was downloaded with that was one of the pieces of information he got way back in the mid 80s, was neutrinos have mass. Science had not figured that out yet. And so mass, when it collides with mass, there's an interaction, right? Think of 2 cars that scrape together. the red card gets some blue on it, the blue card gets some red on it. There's an exchange of information. So as these neutrinos are coming from the sun and from other extra, other stars, they're picking up energy from the planets that's moving through us. This is why it's so important that we really trying to align our thoughts as much as possible to that frequency of love and joy, because as these neutrinos move through us, of course, what are they picking up? Our energy, right? And so it's like this continuous circulation of these neutrinos that are carrying information. We all have a very specific, unique, energetic wiring. And so when I do human design readings, that's what I'm looking at, is how are you wired energetically? Where are you open to receive? Where are you a transmitter out into the world? And we all are designed to have openness in our wiring to take in from the outside. But again, we just have to recognize that it's not ours. It doesn't mean that some of those insights and inspirations and information coming through are true, but we all have a truth-telling system. Again, human design can support us with that if you don't have another method, and letting you know what your true strategy and your decision-making authority is, and it's not the mind. The mind is terrible at making decisions. It always needs a reference point, right? A this or a that. It's great for comparing and all that kind of thing, but it's not great for making decisions. So yeah, the neutrino stream is always bringing through information. Some of it's supportive, some of it's not, some of it's for us to do something about, some of it's just to be like, oh, okay, and let it go. So yeah, I mean, so often, again, the ego gets involved in information that comes through, thinking that we have to do something about it, right? It's our idea, it's our inspiration. Yeah, it might actually come through the stream. Why do we see people on one side of the world have the same idea as someone on the other side of the world, right? The stream is going through, the quantum is in, effect. And yeah, these energies are always circulating. So as you get to know, and that's always something you can investigate your design, you'll get to know, oh, this is what's true to me. And oh, this is where I take things in. And it can be wisdom, or it can totally push us into the not self and throw us off track. So yeah, that's kind of a brief little overview.
Thank you for that. Thank you so much. It does tell us that there's a lot of energy out there, and actually what's going on with that energy. And from the bigger, broad perspective, if we zoom out of all of it, this is why we've been saying, with what's been going on the planet the last couple of years, that it is a wonderful opportunity for the shift. Yes, we've seen people go deeper within themselves, becoming aware of like feelings that just don't feel good. And that's why we like to say it's going to become, it almost feels like we're in a pressure cooker where it's as simple as just surrendering to love. Surrender to love. And another aspect that I like to repeat often is a great person who had a couple of near-death experiences said, what if nothing is wrong? And when I got that, it took me a couple of weeks to really get it. I mean, our ego brain, our mind is like, yeah, okay, I get that. And we can immediately feel, what if nothing's wrong? We can feel that. But when we really get it, when we really understand it, there is such joy and peace in that, isn't there? I mean, and so then it really becomes with us being responsible for the energy that we exude. And if we're being snappy and we can stop ourselves and really take a look at it, that's an incredible shift that we're making. And we can now see how it really does affect everyone else around us. Mm-hmm. Even if we're holding that frequency and not responding to someone, we're holding our frequency of truth. I've actually seen this in my own life. Shift other people with no words at all, no reaction, but their minds changed. So this is why we do it. And I love the work that you're doing to help people really go deep and clear this out, because the flip side of that is such a beautiful, authentic world. I can already see it. I already see it. So wonderful. We have time for, let's do one more. Can we do one more?
Sure.
Okay. Let's
Yep.
go to JD. JD, hello, JD. You can unmute yourself and say hello.
Hello?
Hi.
Hi. So glad you called me.
Yes.
I was just about to start washing dishes.
You wash dishes.
So thank you. I guess my question is, I've been doing a lot of shadow work myself, and is there any messages that my inner child maybe wants me to receive, or maybe wants to tell me? I particularly now, I'm actually doing some emotional work from when I was a child, so I guess it kind of all fits in together.
Yeah.
And if there's any healing that is possible that could be done as well, or any guidance with that as well would really help. So thank you.
Yeah, JD. So let me ask the question that I'm doing readings on, because I think that'll bring through, your higher self is going to let me know. Yeah, what needs to be cleared next, or what's coming up for you right now. So I'm just going to ask, what's most eclipsing the light of JD's inner child? Just having you take a nice full deep breath for me, opening. So what I'm seeing is your inner child sitting in her light, but she's just looking really small within it. I see her like this great big orb. I mean, your inner child has this beautiful light. So let me just see why she's not fully like just standing in it and radiating it and loving it up there. Wow. This aspect of your inner child is feeling like being in her light. She's like being in her light is like being given a time out. It's actually a separation for her from others. So it's a kind of funny twist on the abandoned child. Like if she's in her light, the more she radiates her light, the more she is disconnected from others, is what this shadow aspect believes. So let me just see where this one was triggered. What age? Age 2. So very young at age 2. And what it feels like was happening again, it's just these little things. Like I just see this little 2-year-old you like really being playful, but being a little bit loud too, and getting in trouble for that. It's like kind of being given literally being given a timeout or a punishment. But you were just like so joyful in that moment and so full of life, and then getting punished for that. So this aspect is seeing being in its light as being a punishment. So that's what you want to clear out for this one.
Wow.
Wow, thank you. Actually, it makes a lot of sense. I'm in my mid-20s right now, and it's really hard for me to connect with people, to truly be myself, because it almost feels shameful.
Yeah. Right.
Yes.
Yet you got shamed, you got humiliated for being in your playful, joyful self, in your exuberance, right?
Wow.
And then you got punished. So why would I want to be that?
Right.
Better watch out, right? I'm going to get punished if I fully embody my light and myself and my joy.
Mm-hmm. Wow.
Okay.
Well, thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. You're welcome. Time to let that one go.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, see how that something that happens at 2 can be carried along in our life. I've even looked back at areas in my life and it'd be like, wow, that was because of that. So JD, so you have such a great head start. Wonderful that you're on this journey in your mid-20s.
Thank you. Is there anything that you can, that you both can recommend for me to maybe let go part of this, I guess, wrong type of pattern or program, so I don't continue to recreate it?
Well, consider the package.
Oh, yeah.
Right? That's what it's all about. Helping you release these things. So yeah. So contemplate that, can take that in, see if that resonates with you.
All right, thank you.
Okay.
Thank you for doing the inner work. Yes, awesome. Thank you. Okay. Well, thank you so much, Margo. This has been wonderful. Your joy is what I want to say. Your joy is, it's not addictive. Well, maybe it is addictive, but we're feeling it. You emit it, and it really is an inspiration to all of us to go back into that joy and create our new earth. Create our new earth. We all raised our hands to be here at this time. Let's never lose sight of that. Keep our eye on the prize. So as we say goodbye, I want to invite all of our viewers and listeners to check out your special offer and work with you if that resonates in the heart. And I want to give you, Margo, a big thank you and a moment just to share any final thoughts.
Yeah, so first of all, thank you. Thank you, Loren, for giving me this opportunity to speak to everyone. Thank you to everyone that joined today. And just know that your inner childs are so beautiful, so light, so wanting to connect fully with their playfulness, the joy, the self-love. I can already feel some hearts just bubbling up. You know, of course, when I'm speaking here, the energies of Mercury, of the green emerald just comes in, of the foxglove supporting you in accessing your inner child in a deeper way and being able to connect with your inner child for doing that imaginal work, for working in the quantum, with working in other planes, dimensions, and so on, but also just being healed here on this new earth, bringing your frequencies here, sending those out into the neutrino stream to support others. I want you to know how much of a difference that makes, even when you think it's not. You're having such a beautiful impact on the world. So thank you.
Thank you, Margo, and thank you everyone for your light. It is so heartwarming, and truly it brings us so much hope. Thank you. Thanks, Margo, and thank you everyone. Namaste. Thank you for listening to this quantum conversation, and thank you for dancing with us to the cosmic heart. As we raise our own vibration, we raise the vibration of the planet. This show is dedicated to you and all awakening hearts, as we are here to shine our bright light and amplify our love. Access all quantum conversations, special offers from our guests, and online healing retreats by visiting acoustichealth.com. I'm Loren Gailey, and from my sacred heart to yours, I honor your magnificent love and light. We leave you now with music from the universe. Music literally created by the universe, as musical notes were assigned to mathematical equations. The result is this beautiful music, available at acoustichealth.com. Namaste.